Hey first grade art friends, it's Mrs. Herbay. Welcome to another week of art. Today we are going to do something really fun. We are going to create the icy Arctic background for habitat. It's sort of our Arctic habitat for our polar bears today. And so all you're going to need is your two pincher fingers and a glue stick. And you will also need, I forgot, sort of a blue crayon or a blue colored pencil. Okay? And that is all you're going to need. So go grab your stuff. And you're also going to need your papers that we paper clipped together last week. This is our finished example that we are going to be working towards. And I'm going to be talking to you guys. We're going to create a line across here where the sky meets the water, and that's going to be called the horizon line. So we're going to be talking about that. And we're also going to be talking about how we're going to glue strips of paper that we ripped together to kind of look like the water and the icebergs that float in the Arctic. Okay? So go grab your stuff and we'll get started. All right, so if you have your things from last week, you should have some torn white pieces of paper that are going to become floating bits of ice and icebergs floating in our water. And then you're also going to have a long piece that should be kind of a whole big long piece. Let's say when you were ripping it, you ripped it into some different pieces. That's okay. When you go to glue it down, you can just kind of glue it together so that what we're going to do is we're going to be gluing this long strip along the bottom of our piece of paper to create sort of the main iceberg that's in the front of our landscape that the polar bear is going to be standing on. You're going to notice that on this end, there isn't going to be some white because the paper isn't quite as long as that. But the good news is that our polar bears are going to cover that space up. Okay? So what you're going to do is we're going to take our white piece of paper, we're going to flip it over. You're going to look and see if you have any pencil lines on either side of your of this piece of paper. If you happen to see that there's pencil lines, that's the side where you want to put the glue because we want to hide the pencil lines behind the back of the paper. So what you're going to do is you're just going to take your glue stick, and what we're going to do is we're going to outline around the edge of this strip of white paper. So I outlined around the edge, then I'm going to just put sort of a swath down the middle. And what we want to do is we want to line this up with the left hand corner. So I want to make sure that this edge is even with this edge over here. And then I'm just going to kind of line up the rest of the strip with the bottom of my piece of paper. And I'm just going to smooth it just like so. All right. Then the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to grab our polar bear. Okay. And what you're going to do is you're going to put your polar bear on the iceberg, and you're going to kind of see where you want him to stand. Now we're going to put him on the right hand side because if you notice, this paper is a little bit wider than some of the paper strip that we have. So you want to cover up that space, but your polar bear can be more onto your paper, or if you want some of your polar bear to go off the edge of your paper, you can do that as well. So once you have your polar bear lined up where you want it, what I want you to do is you're just going to take your pencil and you're going to hold your polar bear. And what you're going to do is you're just going to outline around that outer edge of your polar bear, and then you're just going to outline around this inner arc right here. And you might be asking me, why are we doing that? So now you can kind of see I have my outline here and then my outline right there. And what that does is that just tells me where my polar bear is going to be on my paper. So as I create the water and the ice, this will tell me there's no sense in putting an iceberg right here because when I go to glue my polar bear down, we're not going to see it. So what this line is doing is it's telling me not to necessarily glue anything inside this area because we won't see it. Can things go overlap over top of this line? Of course. So things can go into this space, but it's just a reminder that we don't need to waste a lot of time filling this space because it's going to be covered up. Okay? So the next thing, now that we have our icebergs, okay, we're going to put those aside. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to put this paper aside and we're going to get out our piece of blue paper and our piece of purple paper. Okay? So grab those and I want you to think about last week when we ripped this piece of paper, we kind of tried to control how we ripped the paper by moving our fingers down the line that we drew on our paper. Now, when we go to rip the purple and the blue paper, the cool thing is that it doesn't really matter. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our pincher finger. So I'm taking my thumb and my pointer finger, and I'm putting it at the edge, top edge of my piece of paper. And then I'm taking my other thumb and pointer finger and putting it right next to. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull down with my right hand and hold the paper with my left. So I only got a little piece. It didn't go down all the way. So that's fine. I'm going to put that piece there. And then right where it broke off, I'm just going to pull down again. And I didn't quite make it to the bottom, so I'm going to, and that time I pulled all the way down. Now I have a piece of paper that looks like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back up to the top, and I'm just going to, I'm going to pull forward with my right and back with my left. And once I have that tear started, it's kind of cool. I can just kind of start to pull that piece of paper down. And there I got another piece. Now it broke off there, so I'm just going to start another little rip and then just pull it down and see what happens. And there I got another piece. So I'm going to keep doing this. That piece was a little bit longer. Till I get all of this ripped into strips. If you have a really big long strip, you can leave it long, or if you have a really long strip and you want to make it shorter, you can just kind of rip it in half. So now I have a nice little pile of blue, and then I'm going to do the exact same thing with my purple. So you guys go ahead and do it too. So we're going to grab our pointer finger and our thumb, just like you're going to give somebody a pinch. And you're going to put it right here. Same on this hand, on the other side. And then I'm just pulling towards myself. Whoa, I got a really big long piece there. Okay. And let's say you said, well, I might want to try to get it a little thinner. You can try to peel off or break off other pieces too. So there's that piece, and then try. Whoa, I got a really nice long one there, and there's another long one. And I'm going to try one more. Like that. And then I'm going to take some of these longer pieces and rip them into shorter pieces. So now I have a nice pile of blue and purple strips. These strips are going to become the water. But what I want you to first do is I want you to find one of your longer blue strips, and I want you to figure out where you want your horizon line to go. And what that means is where you want the water and the sky to meet. We don't want to put the horizon line too high up here because then we would have just a tiny little bit of sky. So we want to leave you know, a decent amount of sky that we can add to decorate at the end. But we don't want to maybe put it all the way down here either, because then we'll have so much sky and not very much space to put our floating icebergs. So you kind of decide where you want it. And it can be up close to the top of your polar bear, or it can be a little bit further down. Now, if you notice, this piece goes all the way into where my polar bear's body is. So I'm just going to rip some of that off because I don't need it to go all the way over into the body. But it can go a little bit into it. And it's okay if some of it hangs off the edge of your paper too. So I think I want my horizon line to go right about there. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my glue stick and I'm just going to run a swath of glue down the middle of my strip. And then I'm going to turn it over. And I'm going to glue my horizon line right here. Okay. Now what that means is that that's where the water meets the sky. So nothing is going to get glued above this. This is the sky, and from here down is the water. And so how I'm going to show that difference is I'm going to start to fill in the water with different strips of blue and with different strips of purple. Okay. And the other cool thing is that I can also include my icebergs. All right. So what I would do to get started is and the fun thing about this is you don't have to be very specific. You can just kind of have fun and see where it goes. So I'm going to take another strip of blue. We want our strips to go horizontally. All right. Because when we look at water, we see the horizon line and all of the water lines go horizontally from left to right. So that's why I have these strips. I'm going to be able to kind of glue them left to right. The other cool thing is that I can overlap the strips with one another to kind of fill in spaces. So you can kind of decide where you want them to go. The other thing you might ask is, well, why did we rip the paper? Well, ripped paper looks cool because it gives us sort of that same feel of the water and the ice that we kind of notice in the Arctic. And then once you have some of those pieces glued down, maybe you want to start to introduce some of your icebergs. And so maybe I want one right there. So I'm going to turn it over, put some glue on the back. And I kind of had it like this right in here. And there we go. And then I'm going to keep working my way down. I'm going to add, I think, a little more blue. Maybe I'll leave some space in between that blue and purple. I'm going to add a little bit of purple over here. Maybe I'm going to get a smaller blue piece and put it up here. Maybe I want some more purple up in here. Maybe I think it's time for some more ice. Overlap it there. You can also, if you want to, maybe I want to put some more ice up in there. But here's the thing. I can't put it up here because now it would be floating in the sky. So you always have to remember to keep everything kind of below the horizon line. It's okay if it extends up beyond the water, but it's still connected to the bottom part down in here. So I'm just going to go ahead and keep gluing my strips of blue and purple and fill it in till I get down to the bottom of my paper. Okay. And if you want to watch, it'll go, I'm going to have it go in fast motion so you can see it quickly, and then you can go ahead and have fun doing it yourself. Alright guys, so I got all my strips glued on. I have a few left over. And don't worry, you don't have to use all of the strips that you ripped. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of take my polar bear back out and see. I'm going to put my polar bear down. And it looks really good. I've got some ice floating. I've got the water going. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take our blue crayon. So if you want to pause for a second and go get a blue crayon, Mrs. Herbay's going to grab hers. And then I'll show you the final couple steps to finishing up our project. Alright, so Mrs. Herbay has her blue crayon. I'm going to put my polar bear off to the side for a minute. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to thinking about my horizontal lines. And if we think about the pictures that I showed you of polar bears on the Arctic ice, sometimes we notice that the lines of the water kind of went horizontally. So we can kind of add, if we want to, we can kind of add some horizontal lines to the water just to make it look like it's moving a little bit. And the other thing that we can do is we can add some edges to some of our icebergs to make them look a little bit more chunky and icy. So what you're going to do is, if you just draw a line along the left side of one of your pieces of ice, and then what you can do is you're just going to draw lines like that across there. And if you want to, you can even color it a little bit blue with your blue crayon. You can kind of outline where the water is. You can try some lines close together. On this side, maybe I'll put a line that kind of comes up here for this piece of ice. And put my lines like that. You're going to put a few lines in here. I'm going to color that in a little bit just because I want to. I'm going to add a little bit of line right there. So just take a few minutes. You're going to add your lines, add a few details to your icebergs. Adding some horizontal lines to my water. Color in some areas a little bit more if you want to. Some more lines going here. Do here in between the legs of where the polar bear is. There's water over there. And voila! So there, I've added all my watery details. And then you can think about any details that you want to add to the sky. Maybe it's a sunny day, so there's a sun that's kind of shining up in there. Maybe there is some white clouds. Sometimes white colored pencil stands out a little bit better. Some clouds. Maybe it's snowing. So you can go ahead and add those final little details to your picture. And then when you're all done, then what you're going to do is you're going to figure out where the lines were kind of for your polar bear. And once you see, okay, that's kind of where I want my polar bear, then what we're going to do is we're going to turn the polar bear over. And we're going to outline the outside edge of our polar bear, inside edge, an X in the middle, and then there's my line. I'm going to line them up at the bottom, and go ahead and stick him down. Now, Mrs. Herbay forgot to, the baby bear I left at school accidentally, but then when you're finished, you can also then figure out where you want to put your baby bear. And you could squeeze the baby bear kind of hiding between the mommy or daddy bear's legs, or maybe the baby bear wants to go over next to the mommy bear. Maybe the baby bear wants to go on top of the mom or dad bear. It's totally up to you. And then for the last part, if you have these little rough edges sticking out across the edge of your paper, what we're going to do is we're just going to turn it over, and then where we see all these little kind of dingly danglies, we're just going to take our scissors and clean up that edge, which is kind of cool. And then when we flip it back over, ta-da, nice and clean. All right, and there is your finished artwork. When you finish, make sure that you ask maybe your mom or dad for some help. Take a picture of your artwork and then upload it using the link that I have on Canvas so that you can share your art with Mrs. Herbay. And I also maybe hope to see it when I meet up with you guys on Tuesday. So I hope you guys have a great week, and I can't wait to see you soon.